Seth Joey and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, welcome. This is the channel where I paint my face, turn my camera on and talk about some books. Today we are going to try out a bit of a experiment vlog day sort of thing, which is where I basically read for the day like it's my 9 to 5. Now what does this mean? Basically my dream job would be to read for a living, and I know that that's not possible, so what I'm instead going to do is manifest that dream by experiencing that for one day. And I mean, another part of why I'm doing this is because I think it could be really interesting to see how many books or how many pages specifically I can get read in a day if I just dedicate myself solely to it for that entire day. So what am I actually reading? My game plan for today to increase the amount I'm able to get through is to read books where I have an audiobook that I can read alongside it, because that tends to make me read faster. It tends to make my reading comprehension a lot higher, with The Maid by Nita Prose. I have really been hesitant about this book in the past because I know Nita Prose is the editor for Ruth Ware, and I really didn't like One by One by Ruth Ware. But I've decided to squash that hesitation today. I've got this beautiful edition of the book and I'm determined to at least give it a go. So let's find out what this is about. It says, Molly the maid is all alone in the world, a nobody. She's used to being invisible in her job at the Regency Grand Hotel, plumping pillows and wiping away the grime, dust and secrets of the guests passing through. She's just a maid. Why should anyone take notice? But Molly is thrown into the spotlight when she discovers an infamous guest, Mr. Black, very dead in his bed. This isn't a mess that can be easily cleaned up, and as Molly becomes embroiled in the hunt for the truth, following the clues, whispering in the hallways, she discovers a power she never knew was there. She's just a maid, but what can she see that others overlook? This is supposed to have amazing neurodivergent rep, which I'm really looking forward to reading and seeing how that's written into the story in the main character. So yeah, that is book one. As for right now, it's 7:39 a.m. so I have time to go in quickly, make myself some breakfast, and then I will get started on this 9 to 5 or 8 to 5, I guess, reading day. So let's get into it. Hey, I am 1 hour into this experiment and I've read 85 pages of The Maid by Nita Prose. I am sort of enjoying it at the moment. It's very formulaic, but what I think is really interesting as well is Molly's approach to this whole mystery, to this whole murder, to this whole situation, because of her neurodivergence, is very, very blunt and very matter of fact. She definitely doesn't seem to fully understand the gravity of what is happening, and by that I mean she'll go from talking about the murder and the state that she found Mr. Black's body in to talking about the fact that she sees someone in front of her eating the shortbread biscuit and that looks really yummy, and she's talking about how amazing the tea is, and she's complimenting her boss on making her tea while she's being interrogated essentially by a police officer about the death, and her mind is constantly getting sidetracked by the things that she feels are very, very important in that day, like making sure all the rooms are clean and that sort of thing. So it's interesting watching that play out in this story. But the reason why I say I'm only sort of enjoying it is because Molly has this very formulaic approach to telling the story. She'll go, I did this at this time, and then I did this, and then I went upstairs and I did this, and then I did this, and then I did this. I think that approach, it definitely says a lot about Molly and the way she processes information and the way she goes about her day and her routines and everything. But for me, it's just not holding my attention. It's not the way that I like to read events playing out. So I am struggling through that, and it doesn't help that only 1 hour in, I'm already feeling really tired, and I can feel myself getting ill as well, which I don't understand because I've been sleeping better than I've ever slept these last couple days. I'm already really, really tired, so this very formulaic approach of telling the story isn't holding my attention, and it's making me even more sleepy. Anyway, I'm gonna get back to reading this book because I still do want to finish it. I still do want to find out what happens and how Molly's neurodivergence is going to play into this. And I think there are definitely aspects being introduced of employees taking advantage of her because she feels a certain way about them and she thinks they reciprocate or something along those lines. So they are getting her to do more favors for them as a result. So I'm interested to see how that progresses through the story. I'm gonna get back to reading this book and I'll update you a couple more hours in on how I'm faring through this day. and a bit hours in at page 189 and I am falling asleep. How am I falling asleep when it's only 2 and a bit hours in? This is going to be an 8-hour day and I am so tired. I've had to pick up a quick pick me up. Don't worry, I stopped the timer when I did that so that I wouldn't be cheating. I had to go and pick up that because I need sugar and caffeine to keep me going. I've also turned the heater off because I think it's getting like too comfortably warm in here and it's making me fall asleep. But as for this book, the characters, all of them are starting to really irritate me. All of the employees at this hotel are annoying me because they are so clearly using and abusing the main character Molly, and the fact that she's not understanding everything that they're making her do, and she's very trusting, so they're really just making the most of that. Particularly this one character, Giselle, who is Mrs. Black, who is potentially at risk of being framed for this murder. She gets Molly to go into the room and go and grab a gun for her. And then Rodney, who for this entire time has been setting up drug deals basically in this hotel. He's using the fact that Molly is attracted to him and wants to be with him. Cheryl as well, she seems to be using and abusing the fact that, yeah, Molly just isn't aware of all the insinuations that are being made against her. Cheryl is clearly very, very jealous of Molly, very jealous of the fact that she's always tipped well because she does a good job. She doesn't like the fact that Molly seems to be standing up to her more recently, so Cheryl has fully dumped her in this. The only person in this hotel who seems to be actually there for her is a doorman named Mr. Preston, who's constantly warning her, like, don't go out with this person, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that, just trying to like protect her. But even Molly, I'm not liking her at the moment because she's making really dumb decisions. Like, she full on found a wedding ring that was owned by the man who died and she went and pawned it. And I understand she did that because she's in financial distress at the moment, so she's not able to pay her rent, so she pawned the ring in order to get the money to her landlord to pay her rent, to stay in the flat that her and her grand used to live in. But I'm like, hun, like, you're just dumping yourself in it there. Like, you know, that someone's gonna find out about that and then you're screwed. And then she goes and tells people that not only did she pawn this wedding ring, but she met up with Giselle and Giselle gave her a bunch of money and asked her to be quiet. She's admitting to people who clearly are not there for her, though she doesn't know this obviously, that she's been lying to the police and keeping things secret from them. Like, she's dumping herself in it and it's really, really frustrating to me. I'm enjoying this book less, I think, because of the fact that the main character is just making really, really dumb decisions. But anyway, I am 189 pages in. It's a 340 something page book, so I should be finished fairly soon and then can crack into whatever the second book of the day is going to be. I haven't decided that yet. Debating picking up It Starts With Us because I bought that or borrowed that from the library, and I'm thinking that might be a nice like pick me up to sort of get through the second half of the day with. But yeah, I'm gonna drink my Coke and have some caffeine and a sugar rush, hopefully, to push me through the rest of this book. Okay, update time. I am excited to say that I am pretty much exactly halfway through my reading like it's 9 to 5 day. I've done 4 hours so far and I'm feeling a little bit reinvigorated. I've had something to eat, I've had my Coke to drink, so I've got that sugar rush going, but I'm probably gonna hop across to Greenwich for like my lunch break, go and grab myself a coffee and do a bit of grocery shopping while I have that hour-long break. But before I do that, I have finished The Maid by Nita Prose, and 1.5 stars. I know, I'm so sad about it too. This is supposed to be something that was going to be really good. I was really excited for this one. I'd heard so many other booktubers saying how much they love this. They love the neurodivergence rep in it, and it wasn't for me. I really didn't enjoy many aspects about this book. Let's go into my review in a bit more detail, and I'm gonna use CawPaw as I usually do to go through the details of it. So let's start with the characters. I didn't really like any of the characters in this story. The main character, Molly, I found her incredibly frustrating because whilst I understood that the fact that she's neurodivergent means that she's going to process information and make decisions very differently to how I would and how a lot of the characters that I read on the day-to-day usually would. Whilst I understood all that, I still found her incredibly frustrating because she would go into situations knowing that what she was doing was wrong, knowing that it would get her in trouble, knowing that it would have all the blame right on her, and then still be surprised when it came back and bit her in the ass. It just really didn't make sense to me how she would make those decisions knowing what the consequences would be, but then choose to make them anyway. And I did find it very, very frustrating, I guess. As for the sort of other characters, the villains were unlikable, as you would expect, as they are supposed to be. And I liked how they were developed. Their motives and everything were really, really clear. But some of our sort of other secondary characters, like Charlotte, who is the lawyer, and Mr. Preston, I didn't understand them at all, because Mr. Preston, he only really got involved because he used to love Molly's grandmother. So fair enough, he had like an emotional connection. But Charlotte, his daughter, only got involved because of the word of her father. Like, she posted $80,000 of bail for Molly to get her out of prison, even though she had no idea who this person was, no idea if this person was a flight risk. She's supposed to be a lawyer who's high up in her field, and I just don't understand the logic of that decision based purely on her father's word. There were just a lot of elements about the characters of this book that were just a little too perfect and a little too obvious and a little bit too convenient, and a lot of the characters fell into a lot of really annoying stereotypes. As for atmosphere, I think the read was really too long, and I think it was too overwritten, which meant that the tension was completely lost. So like the discovery of the dead body, whilst an interesting scene to read in that the way Molly described it was very fascinating, because she was processing this information in such a way that she would see the dead body and react to it, but then her mind would be distracted by something else and she would go and interact with that. But it still had no tension. I think the whole arrest of Molly had no tension. Her subsequent release had no tension. The whole plan they undertook, this group undertook, in order to get the blame shifted off of Molly and onto the person that they thought really committed the crime, that really didn't have any tension. And then the plot twist at the very, very end in the last chapter of this book, for me, just felt annoying rather than like the thing that sticks around in the back of your mind and you wonder how it ended up that way. I just thought, again, so much of this was way too happily ever after, way too convenient, way too hunky-dory, way too like everything's sunny and rosy. So you kind of went into this book knowing that everything would be okay, and therefore not feeling the tension of like, oh my god, how is this going to end? But the writing was the biggest issue for me throughout this read, and I'm going to read to you specifically what I wrote in my review for this section, because I think I elucidated it really clearly here. So I wrote, the writing was an issue for me throughout the read. At the beginning of the story, it felt very methodical and tell not show, but that seemed to align with Molly's way of taking in and sorting through information. But then towards the end, I think the author bled through into the writing too heavily, and Molly's voice started to disappear. So all of a sudden, everything was overwritten and it got really tedious. There were whole scenes that didn't need to be included, meaning the ending was unnecessarily drawn out. It got very moral of the story, but in such a way that it didn't feel like Nita Prose trusted her reader to come to the conclusion she wanted on their own. And then it also got really preachy in terms of mentions of the injustice of the criminal justice system. So it was way too force-feeding, I think, the reader to take what the author wanted you to take from the story, rather than trusting that they would sort of implicitly take that or draw that conclusion. I think the whole thing was too happily ever after for my liking, and Molly's voice was really completely lost by the end, which was disappointing, especially considering her perspective was very, very interesting in the way she was handling and processing information. For the plot, like I said before, I think it was overwritten. There were whole elements of the story that did not need to be included, including the entire court case at the very end of the story. That was just unnecessary. And then a sort of forced found family element at the end with a final plot twist that it just didn't make sense. As for intrigue, I got really bored of the story really quickly, so I was struggling to get through. As for logic, I can't really comment on Molly's logic because I obviously don't see and perceive the world in the way she does, but I can comment on the logic of some of the other characters, specifically Charlotte, the lawyer, as I mentioned before. I don't know why she got involved and so heavily and emotionally involved when she'd never met Molly before and she was doing this purely on the word of her father. I think the only character that had really, really clear logic and motives and acted in accordance with those motives was the villain, Rodney, and that you'd expect that from a villain. So yeah, I really didn't enjoy this one as much as I hoped I would. I think I should have probably listened to my gut when it came to this book, because I did go into this one kind of hesitant because I didn't like the work that Nita Prose had edited, so there was a good chance that I wouldn't like the stuff that she's written. But that is the end of this read. So now we jump into figuring out what my next book is going to be for this 9 to 5 day. So let me go and figure what that is going to be. So yesterday from the library, I picked up It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover, which is the sequel, a very fan servicey sequel, I'm told, to It Ends With Us, obviously by the same author, and I'm kind of intrigued by it. I'm hoping this one is a little more happy and romancy than the other one was just heartbreaking. It Ends With Us was a 5-star prediction for me, and I gave it 5 stars. I loved every minute of it, so I am keen to try out the sequel, Plus, I've got the audiobook for it so I can listen to it while I'm on my lunch break and get more pages read today without actually encroaching onto my 8 hours that I've allotted myself. So yeah, I'm really determined, as you can probably tell, to get a ton of reading done today. So I think this is going to be the next book. So I'm going to get the audiobook sorted for this one and then head out to Greenwich to pick up some stuff that I need for dinner, maybe get myself a coffee, and yeah, we'll go from there. I will say right from this very moment that this book is going to spoil the ending of It Ends With Us. So if you haven't read It Ends With Us, then stop watching this video now. Go read the book, come back, join in on the love for that book. But as for what this one is about, let's read the blurb because I have no idea. And it says, before it ends with us, it started with Atlas. Lily and Ryle have just settled into a civil co-parenting rhythm with their daughter, Emerson, when Lily suddenly runs into Atlas almost 2 years after they last spoke. Elated that the timing finally seems to be right to give what they have together a real chance, Atlas asks Lily on a date. But Lily's excitement is almost immediately replaced by dread and anxiety when Lily remembers that Ryle, though no longer her husband, is still very much part of her life. And though Ryle would dislike Lily dating anyone but him, Atlas Corrigan is the one man he absolutely will not stand having in his ex-wife and daughter's lives. Told from the perspective of Lily and Atlas, It Starts With Us gives readers a deeper look into Atlas's past as he and Lily reconnect and rekindle the love they shared as teenagers while navigating a volatile ex-husband who believes Atlas to be one of the reasons his marriage with Lily ended. So yeah, I'm excited to jump into this fan service sequel. So let's get started and head out to grab the things that we need and then get to reading and the second half of this 9 to 5 day. Hey, I'm back. I went and got some coffee from Costa. I got an iced cappuccino with coconut milk and a couple shots of vanilla in it. It was so good. It was exactly what I needed, but now I have all that coffee energy buzz and it's making me all jittery. So I had some lunch as well. I ended up having leftovers from last night, which was like this pork stir fry thing with honey soy sauce, and it had like peppers and carrot and onion and garlic and all that sort of stuff in it. It was really, really good. I'm trying out the cooking thing. I'm not amazing at it, but I'm getting there. And Ben even said last night he was very impressed with my little veggie stir fry. He said it was really, really good and that I should make it more often. So that is a good sign considering I'm usually cooking things that are inedible. And that's not him saying they're inedible, that's me saying they're inedible. It's bad. And then I even dropped by Oxfam just to have a look through the shelves there, just to see if they had any good books for sale. I didn't see anything that I wanted immediately, but there were a few books in there that I recognized. Like I saw A Fatal Crossing by Tom Hindle in there, which made me laugh, considering I didn't love that book. But hey, it's in there if anybody is so interested. You know, check out the Oxfam in Greenwich. It's there waiting for you. But as for the reading side of things, I have like, I think 2 hours and 45 minutes left, and I am halfway through It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. I can definitely understand what people say when they say it's sort of like a fan service book. It doesn't really have a point to it other than giving the readers some time experiencing Atlas and Lily reawaken their romance after spending so many years apart. I can understand why other reviewers have said, you know, this book is trying to like bring up old conflicts and make them bigger than they actually are. So for example, the conflict between Ryle and Atlas, they clearly don't like each other. That's very much a central point of this story because Ryle is obviously the big major roadblock between Atlas and Lily rekindling their relationship, because Ryle is very much still in Lily's life because of their daughter, and he really doesn't like Atlas, so Lily is worried about how he'll react if he finds out that they're dating, which I don't think they really are dating just yet. At the very least, they are flirting. They've been on one date. Lily proceeded to sleep through the entirety of the date, and Atlas just let her sleep and sort of just relax while she got a break, which I thought was a super, super cute moment. This book is just filled with super, super cute moments. I have been smiling and laughing and giggling and all that sort of thing all the way through. Colleen Hoover's writing definitely does evoke emotions in me. I mean, like, I'm so mad by how much weight Lily places behind Ryle's opinion of her dating and her life and everything like that. I understand why, but don't get me wrong, it makes me so mad. And I'm absolutely swooning about everything that's happening between Atlas and Lily. They're so cute together because it's like they're going back into their younger selves and are sort of having those nerves and that cuteness and everything all over again, and I love it. I don't think this story needs to exist, but I am enjoying it nonetheless. I'm liking the added complication that's been thrown in there because Atlas's family was always like a big question mark in the previous book. We know he was in a really unhealthy environment. We know he was in a very abusive environment, but we don't really know anything more than that. So they play a larger role in this story, presenting a sort of complication on his side. So I'm interested to see how that's going to develop, and also how the whole Ryle, Atlas, Lily triangle is going to develop as well, because Lily obviously has feelings for Atlas, wants to be with him, but Ryle very much is not keen on that and has been still very strongly and like fervently pursuing Lily and convinced that they should get back together. Yeah, it is a complicated story. It doesn't need to exist, but I am enjoying it. It does feel very, very young at times. There are moments in Lily and Atlas's flirtation where I feel like they're acting very, very young, but I guess that makes sense. It's kind of reminiscent of their old romance. They're kind of going back into that time, but yeah, sometimes there are moments in here where I'm like, you know, you're not children, guys. Like, just have a frank conversation and let's move on quickly. But yeah, I'm gonna keep reading this book, and this is probably gonna be the last book that I read today. I might start another one at the end of this video if I have time, but it'll probably just be this one and then wrapping up this vlog. So I'm gonna get back to reading, and I will give you my thoughts once I reach the end of this book. Okay, it is 6:30 p.m. I technically have 1 hour left of, or just under 1 hour left of my reading like it's my 9 to 5 experiment. I haven't quite done 8 hours yet. I did take a longer lunch. And also I've obviously been updating you guys throughout the day, and I've been pausing the timer right when I've been doing that. I have just finished It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover, and I gave this book 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I know a lot of people say this book shouldn't exist. It's fan service. It was just done because everybody wanted it to be done and Colleen Hoover succumbed to the pressure, but I'm going to say something that I never expected to say. I'm going to clap back at all the people who say all of those things and say this book 100% needed to exist. I loved it. I needed to see the characters develop and change and deal with the complications that they and I were traumatized by in It Ends With Us, and deal with the ramifications of the decisions that they made, and finally see some of my favorite characters just have some happiness. But let's go into my review. So after the emotional turmoil and the trauma that was It Ends With Us, it was honestly really, really beautiful to see Lily have some happiness, have some moments where she felt young and, you know, flirtatious and loved and everything again, as she was sort of building this relationship and rekindling that old spark with Atlas. I loved seeing her grow into the role of being a mother and creating this connection with her daughter that she potentially felt like she didn't have with her own mother because of that cycle of abuse that she went through as a child. I honestly thought at the end of It Ends With Us, she'd done all the growing and developing that she could possibly have done when she made the decision to split up with Ryle for the sake of her daughter, but seeing her deal with the ramifications of that decision and the ramifications of having this daughter with this man and choosing to go out and find love again while co-parenting with a man who is very, very jealous and obviously has an input into the people that are present in her daughter's life. I thought it was really interesting to see the way that she dealt with that, the way that she explored that, and the way that frankly at the end of it she went, screw you, I'm going to do what makes me happy and what I know is right for my daughter, and you're just going to have to deal with it. I really, really appreciated that moment. But I also really, really appreciated that Ryle got a little character arc of his own. Whilst I will never say that I like that man, that I forgive that man, that I think that man is a good person, I appreciated that at the end of the story, it was made clear to him that if he wants a part in his daughter's life, he's going to have to make some changes and he's going to have to work on himself. And I appreciated that he showed willingness to do that. So it was nice to see the sort of villain, I guess, of the story get a moment of redemption, or the opportunity for redemption. It shows that these situations are never as clear-cut as you would hope that they would be. And there are, you know, emotions and everything to deal with on everybody's side. I think Atlas is an absolute cinnamon bun, and I think seeing his perspective through this romance was really, really adorable. It showed that he was just as nervous and hesitant and everything as Lily was as well, which I think was really valuable to see. And I liked how he grew and sort of explored that idea of fatherhood after he'd never had a sort of positive experience with his own parental figures in his life, both through Emerson and through the discovery of his younger brother Josh. That was a plot line that really surprised me. I didn't expect it to be in here, but I think it needed to be in here in order for this story to feel like a continuation of It Ends With Us rather than a sort of repetition of the same sorts of things happening over and over again. Quickly though, I really, really hated Atlas's vows when him and Lily were getting married. Oh my god, if I was in Lily's shoes, I would be so mad because those were the most depressing vows that I have ever heard. I understood they were meaningful to him and to them, and they probably meant a lot given everything they'd been through together, but man, that is supposed to be a day of happiness and celebration, not like rehashing all the trauma. As for atmosphere, because I started this book already really loving the characters, being really familiar with the setting and all the dynamics and everything, it was so easy to jump back into that world and feel everything that I think Colleen Hoover intended for her reader to feel. I mean, I was so invested from the get-go. I was giggling when Atlas and Lily would sort of nervously flirt with each other. I was swooning when they finally kissed and started up their relationship. I thought Emerson was so, so cute. I liked the exploration with Josh. It made me feel tense and everything for Atlas because he was trying so hard to create this relationship with a boy that was dealing with his own trauma and difficulty. I mean, this world that they're in is already one that I love so much, and so it was so easy to jump right back into it. As for the writing, I mean, like I said, Colleen Hoover has this amazing ability to make me feel everything that she's trying to convey, I think, through this story, and I'm honestly floored by the fact that she's able to evoke emotion and physical like reactions from me when reading this book, as well as like evoke this really clear visual imagery in my mind as she's describing all of these situations and the shops and the restaurants and all these sorts of things that the characters are involved in. I think the plot of this was paced really well. The romance was tentative and nervous and hesitant at the beginning of the book, which made sense considering the fact that these two characters had grown and changed a lot since they first fell in love, and they'd been through a lot, both together and separately. So I think it made sense that their relationship, now that they had kids and siblings and everything else to deal with, did take a sort of slower and more tentative pace. Like I said, I was really surprised that Ryle got that sort of brief character development at the very end, but I did appreciate that it presented this more complicated view of his character rather than just being a straight up villain. And honestly, I thought the lightness of the romance between Atlas and Lily intermingled and interwoven with the sort of depth of dealing with the consequences from their pasts and their actions was really, really well played against each other, so that nothing felt too light or too dark at any moment. It was just a really well balanced book in my opinion. As for intrigue, I don't think there was a single moment of this book where I wished I wasn't reading this book. I was thoroughly sucked in. For logic, I think the only thing that I questioned was just how reliant, I guess, Lily was on having Ryle's approval before she started any relationship with Atlas. I can kind of understand the inclination there because, you know, they share a daughter together and he obviously has a say in who is in his daughter's life. So I think the way that she handled that was really, really good in that she kind of let him know what was going on, but didn't give him the feeling that he had any say over her personal relationship. It was just Atlas's involvement in his daughter's life that Ryle had the right to give an opinion on. I think that was the only piece of logic that I was kind of toing and froing on though. I think everything else made sense. So yeah, as for enjoyment, I loved this book. I think it 100% is necessary in order to see how these characters grow and change after the trauma of It Ends With Us, and I honestly am so glad that I get to see these characters in a really happy place at the end of this story, even though those vows were absolutely appalling. So, like I said, I have 1 hour, technically, just under 1 hour, I think about 50 minutes left of this experiment, and it is 6:36 p.m, so it'll be like 7:45-ish, I think, by the time I actually finish this vlog, which is obviously longer than a work day, but I've taken breaks, I took a longer lunch, I've been updating you guys and stopping the timer, so I have to go and choose the book that I'm going to be reading for the last 50 minutes of this vlog. I'm not going to finish anything, but I, at the very least, have to pick something. So I'm gonna go and do that, and I will be back in 2 seconds with whatever book I end up choosing. Okay, so pick the book. Because today seems to be the day of finishing series for me, I've decided that I'm going to finish another series that I'm almost at the end of, and that is the Twisted series by Anna Huang. I need to read Twisted Lies, which came out, I want to say fairly recently, but probably not. No, I was right. It came out in 2022. So this is the only book in that series that I haven't read. As for what the series is, it's a series of dark romances, very smutty, very fun, very easy breezy reads. So I'm going to get stuck into this one. They each follow one girl in a friendship group of 4 girls. So this one follows Stella, who's the last girl in this friendship group, but I'm just going to read you the blurb. It says, charming, deadly, and smart enough to hide it, Christian Harper is a monster dressed in the perfectly tailored suits of a gentleman. He has little use for morals and even less use for love, but he can't deny the strange pull he feels towards the woman living just one floor below him. She's the object of his darkest desires, the only puzzle he can't solve, and when the opportunity to get closer to her arises, he breaks his own rules to offer her a deal she can't refuse. Every monster has their weakness, she's his obsession, his addiction, his only exception. Sweet, shy, and introverted, despite her social media fame, Stella Alonso is a romantic who keeps her heart in a cage. Between her 2 jobs, she has little time or desire for a relationship, but when a threat from her past drives her into the arms and house of the most dangerous man she's ever met, she's tempted to let herself feel something for the first time in a long time. Because despite Christian's cold nature, he makes her feel everything when she's with him. Passionate, protected, truly wanted. Theirs is a love twisted with secrets and tainted by lies, and when the truths are finally revealed, they could shatter everything. Sounds fun and dramatic and really unrealistic and amazing. So I'm gonna start this book, read 50 minutes worth of it, and let you know my thoughts once I'm maybe like 30 to 40 pages in, because that's all I'll probably read in that amount of time. So I'll see you very, very soon. Oh my god, the cheese is so real. Oh my god. Okay, so I am, how far in? 58 pages into Twisted Lies by Anna Huang, and it's already set up as fake dating, a hero that doesn't believe in love, but naturally the heroine is all about that swoony romantic stuff, so likely chances are she's going to change his mind and all that, which is just so cheesy, but I love it because it's so good. Hero has borderline stalkerish tendencies. He keeps showing up wherever she is, and it's kind of creeping me out. And she also has this thing where she must have had some history of having a stalker, because she's constantly worried that someone's watching her, and she keeps saying to herself, like, not again, it's not happening again, it's not happening again. So it's making me worry that he used to be her stalker, because I don't know if I could get behind that. No, and he's clearly very obsessed with her and has been for a while, and I kind of want to know why, and I'm praying that it's not because he used to be her stalker, because yeah, if that's the romance, then I can't deal with that. But as for the main character, Stella, she's very shy, sweet, everything like that. She's clearly got some issues with her family. She keeps talking about how now that she's fired from her job as a junior editor to a fashion magazine, I think, her family is going to be so disappointed in her. They already are disappointed in her for taking this job and not being like a lawyer or something. So there's definitely a implied family history that's very negative there. As for Christian, I don't know, every time I hear her call him Christian, I keep thinking of like Christian Grey. I've never read 50 Shades of Grey, but I have watched the movies. So I can't get that out of my mind. And I feel like that's an easy connection to make, considering this and that are both very dark romances. Plus this guy's like a CEO and a billionaire and all these sorts of things. And she's currently someone that she's clearly very connected to, who lives in an aged care facility. The price of the aged care facility has just gone up. She's just lost her job, so she's in massive like financial straits at the moment. She's doing everything she can to boost her social media presence, because she has an online sort of fashion blog, and she thinks the only way she can do that is by getting into a fake relationship, because the trends on social media at the moment seem to be like couples. She's trying to create a relationship that's fake on social media. She's going to use Christian to do so. He's going to use her to come along to like events and things with him, because he finds them really boring but a necessary part of his job. And yeah, that's how this whole fake dating thing is going to start. So that is where I'm up to in this story. But as for right now, officially the timer has ended on my reading, like it's my 9 to 5 experiment. So recap. How did today go? I won't lie, it was exhausting. I found my eyes getting really tired for a lot of today. I found myself falling asleep quite a few times, so I had to like inject myself basically with caffeine in order to keep going, but I really enjoyed it. It was really nice to have a day dedicated to doing something I love, however tiring it was, and I got a ton of reading done today. I read a total of 717 pages today, which is just absolutely nuts to me to read that much in 8 hours, so I'm pretty happy with that. I think that's just under like 100 pages an hour, so you know what, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good average reading speed considering I usually put my reading speed as like a page a minute. But yeah, all that is to say that I really enjoyed today. I'll probably give this a go again, so do let me know in the comments down below if you are interested in seeing this again, if there's anything you think I should add into this video to make it more challenging for myself, or add an extra element into this challenge, maybe set a TBR at the beginning, I don't know, see if I can reach it. Come and chat to me in the comments down below, or just let me know if you've read any of these books, if you agree with my thoughts on them or not, or just let me know what you're reading at the moment. I really love talking to you guys and I do my best to reply to every single comment. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please do let me know by liking, subscribing, and hitting that notification bell all down below. It's a super easy way to help my channel grow, and I will see you lovely people in my next video. I need to go make dinner because I'm starving. Bye!